welcome to Inside Salem. I'm your host, Mike Allen. We tape this show at the studio here at Salem Access Television, known as SATV, on Derby Street. We discuss the latest issues facing Salem with a panel that has a lot of experience in Salem. The multiple ways to view this, obviously on Channel 22 like you are now, also through their website with video on demand. But the newest way of doing it, and I like it because it brings it up on the big screen rather than on a computer screen, is through YouTube. So if you just go to YouTube and say Inside Salem, November 2023, up it should pop. So those are the ways to view this show. My panel tonight is Teasie Riley-Goggin,
Thank you, Blake.
political analyst, Domingo Dominguez,
Thank you,
Council
Mike.
at Large,
Good to be here.
Tom Furey, former school committee member, former Council at Large, current planning board member,
Thank you, Mike.
and Jim Fleming, former Ward 6 councilor, former school committee member, and
Good to be here, Mike.
an original panel member of Inside Salem, which has been on the air for over 25 years, since 1997. Some of the topics that we'll be talking about today, of course, last night's election, $2 million feasibility study for Salem High School. I thought it was a pretty good editorial about 75 North Street, fuel assistance, a land deal that the city is doing, and maybe some other topics if we have time. Before we get into the topics, Domingo, why don't you have the floor here?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike, and thank you everyone here in the panel. But most of all, I want to thank the voters of Salem. Last night, I come short of my intention to be re-elected for my fourth term as a city councilor at large, which I feel very honored and privileged to be in that seat. You've been in there before. So I'm very, grateful for the opportunity, and I wanted to tell the voters and everyone who helped me throughout those years, which they are very long, that I'm very grateful to be part of the city government and grateful to live in the great city of Salem. I wanted to congratulate everyone who had the victory last night, and I wanted to continue to be involved myself, and I'm going to disappear. I'm part of this great city, and this great city have given me too much, and my family. I raised my family here. I educate myself here. So I want to continue to be involved in different capacity. Thank you to everyone who have helped me throughout the years, donating to my campaign, holding signs, having signs on your house, or voting for me, or giving me a word of encouragement, which I really appreciate. My family and I are very grateful to be living here in Salem. So thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank
But
you.
the only thing is, may I interject that we were very fortunate to have you. You have been a wonderful counselor all 6 years that we have had you. And I thank your family for sharing you with us for 6 years. You were very hard working, and you worked for the people, always for the people.
I
No
feel
matter
very
what
proud.
issue, yes.
I feel very proud of the work that we have accomplished, together with my colleagues and some other who have helped me throughout my journey, and I wish them the best, and everyone the best.
Okay.
The city to see, everybody to see.
I think it's a sad day for Salem
Yes.
that you were beaten, because you were excellent counselor at large.
Thank you.
And I don't know how to describe that race. I just don't. A man that was here for 6 months or less, and you're an incumbent, three-time incumbent. I don't understand it. I really don't.
It's hard to understand, but the voice of the people already spoke, and the only thing I can say is that I accept their decision, and I wish him the best and everyone the best, and hopefully he become to be the right choice, so we can have a good functional government that will represent everybody here in Salem. My only advice, not only to him, but to everyone in that city, is to listen to the voice of the people, because they're the one that makes that we actually being elected to represent. So put your ear in the people and try to govern by representing everybody fairly.
But we have to look at the fact of the non-voters, not the voters that went out there and voted, but the non-voters that we have here in the city of Salem.
80%.
Yeah.
80% did
80%.
not vote.
Shame on them.
Okay.
I had the real pleasure of serving with Domingo on the city council. A real pleasure. You're a real role model in public service. You ran 4 times before getting on the city council. Now 6 years, 3 terms on the city council itself. I sincerely hope you think of the future, your public service in the future. I'm on the planning board, and I reinvented myself being on the planning board after serving on the school committee and city council, or some other board of your liking. I'd be honored to serve with you on the planning board if you want to be on the planning board. It's amazing to be active, and we lucked out with you. Public service is a high calling. Putting your name on the ballot, it's very difficult. And going door to door, getting the signatures, and you never realize how big a city is until you go door to door.
Okay.
Domingo,
Sorry,
we crisscrossed the city, Domingo and I, council at large, and I think even Mike, you went citywide yourself.
Yeah.
It's a big city to cover. It's a great city, but Domingo, you deserve a lot of credit. My thanks, the city's thanks for serving in public service. A good role model, and keep it up.
Thank you guys for the kind work. And I have so many phone calls today, and I want to tell everybody that I'm planning to visit everyone one-on-one and personally say thank you, because I'm the type of person that I have a lot of gratitude. I am who I am because of the people of Salem. People of Salem give me a lot. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Okay, so let's talk about some of the nuts and bolts of the election. We have 3 new city councilors. Ward 1 city councilor, Cynthia Islow. Ward 4 city councilor, John Harvey. Both of those were in against there was no incumbent in that race. Councilor at large, we have Kyle Davis, and on school committee we have a new
A.J. Hoffman.
A.J. Hoffman. So those are our new members of our elected thing. They start serving on 1st of January.
I think Ward 1 went as predicted. Cindy's father was a longtime counselor in Ward 1, but she's been also very, very active in the ward throughout her life. And so I don't think it was any surprise to me. I think that she will do a good job, and she will be, again, a voice of the people, because her father was a voice of the people. If you remember her father out there.
And what was her father's name?
George
Nowak.
And he served when?
He served,
Ballpark.
let me see, he died in office. I can't.
The 90s, early 90s?
Yeah, turn of the century, just up to the turn of the century.
Okay.
He had maybe 10 terms too.
Okay.
And he was an excellent voice for the people of Salem, and I think that she will follow in his footsteps.
Okay.
Well, how close was George to George Ahmed, who was the founder of this show?
All right.
He was the counselor before he died, and George ran for the office.
Okay, so that would be back in like 94 then,
Yeah,
probably.
that's right.
Early 90s.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
With no mayor on the ballot, people had a chance to examine the city council and the school committee much more carefully, I think. And they had 2 great choices. I think they did 2 good choices on the school committee they could choose from, and 2 new people on the for the city council. I think they narrowed it down. I think that they had that time
Okay,
and
but I
opportunity.
don't see, I mean, again, if someone doesn't vote, that's their American right. And if someone doesn't vote, that's their American right. So 80% basically decided that we had like 6,600 voters. 80% decided not to vote, and that's fine. That's their choice. But it still breaks down to, with a mayor on the ballot, there would have been more turnout. I mean, that reality.
That's
I mean,
reality.
that's not
Indeed.
theory, that's reality.
Indeed.
That we have a higher turnout when the mayor's on there. Although I don't believe that the problem with the 4-year mayor is the fact that we don't have a turnout in the off year. That's immaterial. I think there's other problems with the 4-year mayor. But what it breaks down to, we still had 80% of the electorate in Salem
Sat home.
decide not to vote. We had very nice weather. We had unseasonably nice weather. I mean, you know, probably the nicest day out of like a week before and a week after. I mean, you know, so there was no excuse about bad weather, which we've had. I remember when Mayor Levesque lost to Tony Salvo. I mean, it was basically a monsoon that night.
It was.
You know,
There was a couple of
and
monsoons. I remember a race between Hank O'Donnell and Gene Levesque, pouring rain, and 89% of the vote came out.
Yeah.
89%. That was in 75 or 77.
Yeah.
That's what should be happening now. I know life is much busier. I know that people have other options, but still, that option to vote is sacred and it should be exercised.
Yeah.
But the other thing too is I really, and we've brought it up before on this show before with you, Mike, the fact that when people say, you've got my vote, and then they never go out to vote, you know, you do find out who voted and who didn't vote. You don't know who they vote for,
Right.
but you do know who the voters are.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, there's so many of those people that say, you got my vote,
Yeah.
and it gives false hope to many of the candidates.
Yeah, and again, that's you know, I don't mind when you know, and I've knocked on a lot of doors, and I never minded when someone said I'm going to vote for you, and I mean, I've added up the numbers, and I had a lot more committed votes than what I've gotten
We
in
all had
some
it. We
races.
all-
you know.
we've all been there.
So
All
it's
been
like,
there,
you know,
yeah.
that's
five.
and that's fine. I don't, you know, in other words, many people are. The funniest one is I was running in Ward 4 in the primary, and you know, I was on the school committee at the time. I knocked on a woman's door, and she was a retired school teacher. I opened the door. She recognized. She says, "Oh, Mr. Allen." And then she called to her husband, who was also a retired school teacher, and they were like 80-ish, and said, "Look, it's Mr. Allen from the school committee." And and I said, "I'm running for Ward 4." She says, "Oh, well, we just love you on the school committee, this, and this, and blah, blah, you know." And it was like, you know, this was like one of the first doors I knocked on. I'm saying, "Oh, well, this is good, you know. I'm feeling pretty good here." And then, was short-lived, because then she says, "Who else is running?" And I named some of the other people running, and she says, "Oh, so-and-so's running. I had him in the 3rd grade. I'm going to vote for him." And you know, and she didn't know anything at all about what his politics were or whatever. And it was just, you know, she had him in the 3rd grade, you know, 30 years earlier. And
I think a prime example of that is Mary Manning. Mary Manning is has taught, I say 4 generations of Salem children.
Yeah.
4 generations.
Yeah.
She's taught and taught well.
Yeah.
And she's been friendly with the parents and the grandparents, and
Yeah.
they're still voting. And
Yeah.
Mary topped the ticket last night.
Yeah.
And Mary has always run very well.
Yeah, I think she's topped the ticket every time she's run,
No,
hasn't she?
no, no, she didn't.
No.
Oh, okay.
Pangallo topped it.
Oh, okay,
last time.
okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Last night's election was interesting. You look at the results. 25% of the votes cast were they blanked their votes. They chose only one candidate, 2 candidates,
Right,
3
yeah, but
candidates.
that's
They
common.
didn't choose 4, so that narrowed it down too.
That's how you make your vote strong.
yeah,
Exactly.
That's how
yeah,
you make your vote
The
strong.
bullet
Yeah.
vote, when you vote bullet, you vote for one
Right,
person.
right.
Right, yeah.
Right.
4 votes for that
Yeah.
one person.
Yeah, yeah. But anyways, anything else to say about the election last
I
night?
think Harvey was not a surprise, but I think also he will be a very good counselor and a very good person for people that I'm always looking for. I'm looking for people like Domingo to vote for, and I think that he will be an independent and be listening to the people and not to anybody else.
Okay.
I agree. And I also want to add that Cindy, being a police woman for 40-something years, also bring a lot of community knowledge, especially in World 1, which is very complex. I think that one of the things that going to make the difference is that she will represent the entire world. You know, the Willow, the Derby section, and the Point, which I think in the past previous councillors is being a little bit neglected, need combine and make that ward, look united and have the representation. I know the complex of the ward bring different issues from different sections. That's had to do a lot with the communication, something that I'm willing to help us in the point to try to, at least make the connection and she can, really develop a good plan so that she can do a great job for the entire session.
The other thing I think is A.J. Hoffman, who won the seat on the school board, will be very, very good. She's attended thousands, literally thousands of school committee members. She is a young child, very interested in the schools, very bright, and I think she'll be a big, big addition to the school committee, big addition.
Okay.
But you know, I find it very upsetting that 20% of the vote is deciding what goes on as far as people representing us in the city. And I'm trying to figure out, there has to be a way to get the vote out, the same as you said, up to 89%, even in a big storm. What is it that, why have people become?
I think it's life. I think life has got busier, and I think obligations have been doubled. You know, you volunteer here, you maybe work at 2 jobs. There's a lot more to life now than it was probably in the 70s.
Yeah, but I look back at it, and I think back then that people were working longer hours, and right now I think that right now a lot of people are working from home, and I know that doesn't mean that they don't work just as hard, in fact harder sometimes.
That's right.
But I would like to really and truly interview, which I plan on doing, for the next month or so, and ask. I'm going to ask them point blank. Why is it that you no longer vote like you used to? For instance, we know that if the seniors out there, and I'm talking to you seniors, if you all took your vote and went out and used it, you could control this entire city. You have a paper that's called the Senior Power. That's what you have. And the next time there's any type of election, show this city that the seniors and truly can use that power and make it work for them.
Let me address that, though. I do think in this city now there is age discrimination throughout the city. No, I'm just not talking politics now. I think that there's a huge wave of anti-age discrimination in this city. And I think that there was a meeting just last month relative to combating that. And I hope that they offer some guidelines that will be implemented so that the age discrimination goes away.
I like to add into these comments that you just made that I think people lost the trust on public servants. When you go to a meeting and public hearings are addresses, but at the end of the day they're going to vote a way that has already been planned. People lost trust on people who make the decision. And I've seen so many people saying, why bother to vote when everything is already made up? It's a done deal. They don't want to listen to us. They just want my vote, but at the end of the day, they don't want to listen to the people's voice. So they lost the trust on politicians. Not only in Salem, but I think throughout the whole nation. And I think that we need to go back to the fundamental representation. We need to represent the people. If I get elected in any position, I owe myself to the people that hire me to do the job. So I need to listen to them, even though I don't agree with their perception, because that's part of my job. I'm a public servant, and we need to go back to the fundamental in order for us to win more people to vote.
One of the things is the fact that people don't feel, they do feel, particularly in Salem, because we've had such a strong mayor, is that everything is a done deal.
Yeah.
So there isn't a point.
It's that feeling that deflates the vote.
Right.
But also, I think we should be thinking of moving it to a weekend day. I have
Holiday.
talked about that before. I think that it's absolutely critical now, and I also think we should start talking about voting by television. I think it's the technology is now here, and people, at least I think, will vote from their living room.
Yeah, see, I don't care to make it easier. I feel if someone
We have
was-
made it easier, Mike. You can register at the Registry of Deeds.
Yeah,
I mean, a Registry of Motor Vehicles.
Yeah, I mean, I know that it is, but consider this. I mean, do we want just sheer numbers? Do we want it? I mean, we can bring in a bunch of, trained seals to pull the levers. But
I
what
want
we-
to see one of those.
Yeah, but what we really want is someone who's actually informed of the issues. I mean, which is what we try to
Well,
do
but
in the show.
you can't say that 80% of those people are not informed.
They're not enough informed that they felt it was- yeah.
They just did not vote. But some of them, I know some of them,
Yeah.
and some of them are very articulate about the issues,
Yeah.
very concerned about the issues, but didn't vote.
Yeah, yeah, that I don't
But
understand.
to give credit, it was a really nice ballot for young people to get involved. A lot of these candidates for school committee and city
Age
council were
discrimination.
young. We're young. New
Age
blood. New
discrimination.
blood.
Here we go.
Again, well, when you brought up new blood before, I was going to say,
New blood-
you served for how many years were you totally served?
36.
Okay, so it just seems like if you, that in a way you should have gotten off earlier to allow new blood to get on, but you didn't because you brought experience.
Somebody took a shot at him in the paper today.
Yes, there was.
Longtime committee member, longtime counselor, and then going on to the planning board. And they think that's wrong.
Yes, they're very visible. They're very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean,
Not that it's
right.
just, I just
and,
want,
that's almost the
fact.
argument you're making. Did you write that letter?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I mean,
no,
it's
it's an observation of a voter at the polls.
Oh, I see. Okay. So I mean,
Well, she had a good point.
yeah, I mean, yeah. So
well, I
there's-
don't think so, but
yeah.
I mean,
Again, I'm not saying that, again, the age that someone can run, and that's fine, and they're welcome to run. I heard a lot of complaints regarding the person who finished fourth at large race. And he just moved to Salem,
6 months ago.
yeah, 6 months ago. I mean, how can he know what's,
Doesn't.
it doesn't seem. But on the other hand, the people have spoken, and that's it. I mean, it really is incumbent upon the candidates to get out their vote. I mean, I know that, again, when I was running in one race, I had a bunch of people told me, oh yeah, we're going to vote for you. They didn't. They didn't get out and vote for me. And that's my fault. I can't blame them. I mean, if I didn't motivate them enough to come out and vote, I mean, that's the thing. And if these people are, I do think it's a little bit of the fact that because it's been such a strong mayor for so long, that many people feel that everything is a fait accompli. It's a done deal, and therefore, what's the point? So I mean, there is some of that, but again, that just reinforces it. I mean,
Well,
you
I
have
think
to
it's
fight against
incumbent
that.
upon
I think.
any candidate that seriously wants to run and seriously wants to get elected, that they have to have some sort of organization. And by that, I mean, first of all, going door to door or meeting people and identifying that vote. And then once it's identified, having a means to get that voter and voters to the polls. Some do it by telephone, some do it by sending people out knocking on the doors, because you're reducing it to say, of the 20% that voted, you've taken like 40% of those who have said, yes, I'll vote for you. Now you want to get them into the polls.
Right.
And I don't think that was really prevalent this time around.
Okay.
Kyle Davis ran against Senator Lovely and against an incumbent senior senator, our Senator Joan Lovely, and I think he had the hunger to run again. He moved to Salem after 6 months, and I think SATV gave him a platform. He came across very well on SATV, the debates, and so on, and he only had 6 months in Salem,
Yeah.
a registered voter, and he applied
Does
his
he know
case.
where Harmony Street is?
Pardon?
Does he know where Harmony Street is?
I think he does now.
I don't think he
I think
does.
he does
I
now.
don't think he does.
He's crisscrossed the city.
I don't think he knows where Harmony Street is.
I give him credit for running.
Yeah, and that's I know that at one point in time, I was contemplating running against longtime Ward 4 City Councilor Lenny O'Leary, and he was talking to someone. He was talking about this street and that street, and I'm saying, well, you know, I'll never be able to match that. I mean, I'm lucky to remember my own name some days, you know. So, you know, again, I'm not sure if that's, you know, being able to memorize street names is necessarily the be-all, end-all of good public service.
It's not memorizing, it's knowing the city.
Yeah.
It's knowing
yeah,
the city.
Yeah.
Knowing the neighborhood.
So, you know, so again, everyone followed the rules. You know, I've got, you know, doesn't
Yeah,
mean
but
I have
you know,
to
this-
be happy
this-
with anything, but I have no problem with it, you know.
I do.
But this was an historic city.
Yeah.
It had a different tempo that went along with it. And back about 15 years ago, that tempo changed into so far as the word hip-hop. Do you remember that when that came in? And Boston Magazine dubbed Salem as hip-hop, and Mayor Kim Driscoll was overjoyed by thinking that we were this.
Okay.
We have big things that go on almost every weekend, right?
Yeah.
It's a place, go to Salem, right? They always have some activity.
Yeah. But remember this, 50 years ago, or maybe 60 years ago, I mean,
think
there
I
was
was on
3
the ballot.
Sylvania plants, you know, running 3 shifts. There were a bunch of leather factories. So the resident / voter at that time was a factory worker to a large extent. That has changed. I mean, so you know, so things always
changed,
change. I mean, it never stays the same. You know, the thing is this. You know,
I think the last 2 elections show very deeply that Salem has changed in so many ways, especially in the borders. There's a new generations of borders, new people who are not tied with the local history. They are more tied with the developers and the big buildings, and more tied with an agenda that is already being brought out from, you know, country-wise. Meaning by that, you know, the progressive, I'm very progressive, but you know, the way city, you know, mentality, the 4R, you know, more than that. So they come in with different, I think, in vision of what they wanted to see in a city.
I think-
and the local are getting out.
I think you got a little point there. But I think we destroyed the city by driving generations out.
I agree.
We drove generations out primarily by condo conversions. Instead of having the single family, 2-family, 3-family homes where different generations lived in, we drove them out. Now we're driving them out in terms of prices.
Yeah.
This next 2 years probably will be a sea change in terms of Salem. And is that good? I don't know. Is that bad? I don't know. But that's what's happening. We drove them out, we drove generations out, and now we're going to drive more generations out because of the cost of housing.
Completely agreed, and the developers is little by little taking control, because when they do the complex, they're having 400 or 500 people there. They have control of that. We as a political cannot come into those apartments. We can send a mail, but they have control, and they're going to follow whatever direction they say. I noticed, you know, Don Atkins, that the limitation that we had to get into the one-on-one with people is being limited. The control now is the developer who own a lot of apartments where they have a lot of people there and they're listening to them. So it's no way.
Agree?
Yeah, we have progressive people here, a lot of them in the city. We have some conservatives. I'm a conservative wrapped in tradition, and we have traditionalists. So I know that it's good sometimes to have a balance of all 3, but I don't think we have a balance right now in this city.
Yeah, again, that's the people choose to move, and people who choose to vote are active, and that's you know, they follow the rules, and that's it. Actually, a good segue into development is a good segue into my next topic here. This was actually brought to my attention by an editorial in the newspaper. We're talking about a piece of property which is zoned to allow 12 units on it. And 12 units means, is it 24 parking spaces? Are we still at 2 per?
1.5.
1.5, okay, so 18 parking spaces, 1.5 parking spaces. And the developer is claiming hardship to allow greater density. So instead of 12 units, the developer wants 60 units. That's not 16, not 1/6 as opposed to 12, which would be a bit of an increase, but not great. He wants 5 times the number with reduced parking to be able to develop this property and claiming
This
a
is
hardship.
on North Street?
75 North Street.
Where are you gonna park on North Street? You can't even drive on North Street, never mind park on North Street.
Can you picture 75 North Street? Where was it on 75?
I think it's the old Burger King, Burger Chef.
You mean HMA?
The old HMA.
HMA, for
I go back to Burger.
Yes.
Burger.
Okay, right, okay.
Yeah,
Burger Chef.
Burger Chef, yeah.
Yeah, that predates.
Had many burgers there. Walked down from School Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so they want-
HMA, which is just near the bridge.
Right.
You know, right near Bridge Street where the overpass is onto North Street. So that's areas.
I think
that
that's
we're talking
75.
about. Yeah. So I take it that's not before the plan. Nothing before
Yes,
the
it is.
planning.
16 to 18 Franklin Street. This is called 16 to 18 Franklin
yeah,
Street.
yeah.
And this is the old junkyard. Juniper Point is the developer, Juniper Point, and
Yeah.
he and his wife and family lived down in the Willows. They named it Juniper Point, and they did most of Bridge Street, all the condominium conversions on Bridge Street from the
Yeah.
Beverly Line to Boston Street. They've done a lot of Mason Street area,
Yeah.
and he's now got to do the development on Canal and Jefferson Avenue, the Bettini property.
Okay.
He's doing that. So there's 4 buildings there. It's before the planning board, which I'm on. It's mixed-use development, 4 buildings, the old Ferris junkyard. He's owned it for 6 years now. It's in the planning for 6 years.
He doesn't own Ferris's.
He's owned it for 6 years.
He's own Ferris's?
Yeah, he's been the owner, and he's been fighting this all along the way. It's been a long chain of process for the city council and the board of appeals and zoning and
I
things
know
like
he's
that.
the developer. He was, and the question of who owns the land,
Yes.
because there was an encroachment by Ferris into public property,
Yes.
moving from the junkyard into parkland.
You got Ferris there, you got Burnham Boatyard there at one time, Burnham
right.
HMA properties there.
right.
So it's the future of the city of Salem for development, right across the street from the new courthouses and right next to right across the street from the MBDA garage.
So I mean, again, I don't understand how, and maybe you can help me out on this, Tom. I don't understand how we can have a property zoned for 12, and the developer with a straight face can ask for 60. I don't understand that.
They all do it. They all come in for 60 and
I
they'll
mean,
get
that's-
40. They'll
yeah.
get 40, all right? They say, oh no, we've reduced it by 20 units.
Okay.
They anticipate also near the train station, which has a lot of people using the train station to go north and south of Boston, Salem. They anticipate a lot of one-car families in that development. 4 buildings,
Yeah.
large buildings owned by Juniper Point, townhouses, not low income at all.
Right.
Very limited low income, more moderate and higher income townhouses,
Yeah.
1 and 2, 3-bedroom
And
apartments.
so is this going to be apartments or condos?
Mostly, I think, condos and apartments,
Yeah.
like accommodation.
Okay.
You know, isn't that land, isn't that adjacent down there? Is that in the same area? Is it Burma?
Burnham.
Burnham Boatyard. Burnham Boatyard, yes.
And that's safe. He's not giving that up,
Pardon?
right?
He's staying.
Yeah, you better believe he's dug
He's
in.
staying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that there's an ongoing battle between Mayor
Yusevich and
Harrington
Harrington.
and
Mr. Burnham.
Mr. Burnham, multiple
Yeah.
court cases and stuff like that. When I was first on the Conservation Commission, we were asked to weigh in.
And there's
on
another
it.
question too. All of that we're talking about now, all of that is wetland. I don't care what you say. All of that property is wetland.
But that site
In
is
the
a
wet-
premier,
well, it's in the
eyesore.
resource
It's
area.
whole eyesore.
Correct.
It's an eyesore. It's an embarrassment to the city of Salem to have that on a 114 corridor, to have that unused. that needs to be used for some, it's going to be used for some development.
But, okay,
It's
so
private
then-
property, not
Okay,
city.
again, where is the limit? Where's the upper limit? I mean, what number is too, I mean, why do we have zoning laws?
Right.
But that comes up big time,
well,
parking,
I-
zoning, Board of Appeals, conservation, as you said, you were on conservation. By the time it gets to us on planning board, it's almost a done deal.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that why do we have zoning? I mean, you were on.
Why do you have the planning board then?
Why were you on the? When you were on the city council, you did a North River corridor
Study,
rezoning
yes.
thing.
And I think
Yep.
Mr. Benkel, Councilor
Right,
Benkel.
Mike Benkel. Right, he was the one.
You lost the election right after that.
Yeah. No, actually, he didn't lose the election. He resigned.
He resigned, that's right.
Yeah, because there was an
Right,
issue.
it was off the council.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the thing is that again, I mean, why did we bother going through all that trouble to make a new zoning regulation?
But if you look at that zoning from St. James across the street, those leather factories, those are all leather factories.
Yeah.
And now apartments now.
Yeah.
They were on Mason Street and
Right.
so my father worked in those leather factories, very
Yeah.
challenging property. They polluted that area. The
Well, of course. I
Salem
mean, that's what
Grease, Global Hollow.
Peabody. Yeah, I mean, all these areas. I mean, that was what you
All
did.
the old
back then.
industrial towns.
I mean, the whole
Lynn
idea.
has done the
with-
same thing.
I mean, we talk about that Overlook
Some of
area,
those
which
done
off
the
of
same
Highland Avenue with that pollution. I mean, what they did at that time was not illegal.
Yeah.
And and then they kept, and it wa- and I mean, the city was dumping there as well, or right next to there. So it wasn't like it was that this person,
It wasn't illegal, but for people now to say that they weren't aware of it
Yeah.
is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
If you're not aware of pollution at that site at Highland Avenue, and you live in Salem for more than 6 months,
Yeah.
then it's not a question. It is polluted.
Yeah.
There was
Well,
another
how are
factory on that
they
pro-
going to build on the Ferris property? I thought they were going to pave that and use it for a parking lot.
No,
Oh.
never in Salem. Parking lot? No development. That's private land. No one's going to make that a parking lot.
But I'm saying, it's oil soaked. We know the cars that were on that lot. And that part of that, belonged to Salem.
No,
So are we gonna
very
have-
small part.
So is it going to be like, similar to like Overlook, where the developer's going to get in there and start working, or similar to Bricks, actually, because this actually happened at Bricks, which is the old district courthouse on Washington Street. It's like 65 Washington Street, across
where it
from the
was.
hot dog stand.
That's what it was. 65 Washington.
And
Spent many
they,
years in it.
they bought the property and everything, and then when they started doing it, it was more polluted than they thought.
Right.
And so now they come back and they get more of a sweetheart deal. So is this developer going to get in there and find out that and say, wait a second, 60 units doesn't make it, I have to spend too much cleaning it up.
There you go.
I need 160 units. We need 10-story buildings there. I mean, what stops that from happening?
And when the burden on our infrastructure is getting to be absolutely astonishing.
Yeah.
Burden, an 8 square mile city with old infrastructure,
Yeah.
now having broad projects such as that, and without answering the infrastructure question, we're going to have a real big
Yeah,
problem.
I mean, the thing is this, and just to talk about infrastructure, I mean, by infrastructure, we're mostly meaning water and sewer.
But
And
roads,
the key,
but roads,
yeah, but I mean, the key thing is water.
transportation.
I think. To replace all the water pipes in Salem would be a monumental cost, unbelievable. But the problem is this: if all of a sudden, if you take a place that has 2 faucets in it, and then you put in 100 faucets, and everyone is expected to be able to turn on their faucet at the same time and get water at the same pressure, you need to increase the pressure running through the pipes, which means that you're more prone
They're
to
going to
breaks.
fail. They're going to fail.
They're more prone to breaks,
Right.
to breaking. And
been in the
we
business.
have a lot of old pipes in this city. I mean, I just don't think enough is. But see, the thing is this, from the elected officials' point of view, is when the pipe breaks, I won't be in office. I'll be gone. I just think there's just too much of that now. Where
It's too much of the fact that you have to have $5 million in new development, or else you're going to have to raise the tax rate. Well, tax rate goes as anyways.
Right, yeah.
But we get the problems of the new $5 million of development.
Yeah. But in the long run, I mean, again, I've mentioned this on the show many times over the years. According to the Mass Municipal Association, which is not run by mega Republicans or conservative groups, it is predominantly the mayors of Salem, which are predominantly liberal. And they, by their statistics, one of these units cost $1.75 in service. Use $1.75 in
For every
services.
dollar we take in.
For every dollar they pay in taxes.
Right.
So it's fool's gold in a way. I mean,
It is. But again, the answer is I won't be here.
Yeah.
Let someone else think about it.
Yeah,
And that's fool's gold.
yeah,
That's fool's gold.
yeah.
And then the first politician that stands up and says something different will be our leader in the city of Salem.
Yeah, and by fool's gold, that's an old-time term, which it would be. I think it was pyrite. You'd have when they were mining
Yes,
gold,
I knew it.
you'd come across pyrite, which looked like gold from the outside, and you'd dig it up. Oh, I found gold, and it wouldn't be gold. It would be pyrite. I think that's the mineral it was, and it was referred to as fool's gold.
Right.
Well, and we have a new term, where they're pirates, and they get elected as officials in Salem.
Okay. Next thing is we have a proposal, I believe, before the City Council to authorize a $2 million feasibility study for the revamping, replacement of Salem High School. Once the project is approved, a lot of that, probably 60% or something like that
come
of
back.
that $2 million will come back
And
to the
it's-
city. So the net cost in the long run is $800,000. You have to put the money up front, and then
And it's required by the grants that we're going to get
Right,
anyways.
yes, yeah.
If we don't do it, we don't get the grants.
right. So, but anyways, if that's coming up for thing, I assume there's no controversy about that at all.
Not at all. No, I was thinking about it. I've been approached by many residents who actually worry about it, and I made my research. One of them was Colin Jim, who was in school committee, who's very versed on the topic, and he actually called the superintendent and give me some info that is the worries about, and we're waiting to be in front of city council maybe in the next meeting, but it's nothing to worry about.
Okay.
Could I ask right now, is our budget right now, is it $168 million?
189, I think.
199?
89.
89.
189.
So does that
189.
mean, if I remember correctly, did Councilor McCarthy say that the $2 million had already been slated in the budget for this school? I thought.
No. This has got to. This will be either come now from city funds or from bonding, because it's going to be recouped.
I realize
from-
it's going to come back to us.
Right.
It's
Or
like,
it might be included in the new bonding for the remainder of that we're responsible for, the city's responsible for in the building of the school. We're going to have to bond.
Jim, I look at it because I remember during the pandemic,
Yeah.
where the mayor came in and stood up and said, we need so much money, and it was $1 million here and $1 million there to put up, and this will be coming back in grants. We're going to take it here and here and here. I often have asked, did the money come back to the council and all? There's so many shifts of money and grants that you're never quite sure where the money is.
Grant is not a shift. Grant is a gift. It's a gift. It's a gift for either the Commonwealth or from the United States government.
Well, the gift, there's no gifts out there.
It's a-
It either comes out of the pocket of the
A
taxpayer.
grant is not, you do not have to repay a grant.
Where does the
But
grant
we had
come
to
from?
pay it in
Where
the
does it
first
come
place.
from?
It comes
We pay
from our
federal tax.
pockets, don't get me
That's
wrong.
right, yeah.
But it's from the state or the federal government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
If we don't get it, then we're not going to get the benefit of what, but it's still going to come out of our pockets.
Yeah, because they're going to spend it somewhere.
That's right,
I mean,
someplace
it's sort
else.
of it's a bad
Right.
system.
Absolutely.
I'm just wondering, the tax going up, you know.
PBD's gonna grab that grant if we don't do it.
Absolutely.
PBD wants a brand new high school.
Absolutely.
And we'll be paying for PBD.
Right.
So why not pay for our own
Right.
high school?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the
So
best
we'll
investment.
we'll be paying 40% for PBD
Yes.
or whatever. We're not
Right.
going to be paying all of it, which we're
Right.
going to be paying for here.
Yeah.
TC, you were mentioning something about
Oh, the city council on a land deal about the land and the city of Salem doesn't really belong to us and the Native Americans, and that they were going to study it and they were going to have a first passage. Can you help us out with that?
Yeah, it's in committee. I think government committee chaired by Councilor Krasnowski have a very robust and conversation in which they invite someone from the tribe to explain about it. And he was very eloquent in some details. Basically what it is, they're going to recognize that this land where we are right now is owned by the Native Americans. And they have a resolution that's going to be presented to City Councilor on the next meeting. But there are some conversations going on in the public that I'm paying attention to. And I want to ask a couple of questions. I'm in favor of recognizing anyone rights, no matter where they're coming from. But I also want to make sure that we do it right, that we do it in a way that everybody understands what's going on. So I think that the general public need more clarification on that topic. And before we make the final vote, I want to hear more. I want to make sure that the explanation is
Read
clear.
O'Reilly's new book, Killing the Witches.
Yeah.
All those nations were compensated for at that time. Whether it was good or not, fine. Whether it was enough or not, that's not our problem now. They were all compensated for. The white man, the European, has been blamed for taking their land away. They were all compensated. Read the book. Read the book.
I completely understand, and my point is that we need to have that conversation, that everybody be in the same page. Based on what I hear, I only hear on the meetings one side of the question. I want to make sure that everyone expresses themselves, and we provide some clarification to.
Well,
to
the
topic.
island of Manhattan, as we all know the story from history, I mean, they bought Manhattan with a big load of trinkets
and
everything down the line.
$24 worth
That's
of
right.
beads, you know.
Yeah.
But-
$24 was
that
going rate,
agreed
yeah.
to price.
That was
agreed to
acceptable.
price.
But they also talk about back in the 16th century here with the Indians that there is a record that the city of Salem paid 20 pounds to the Indians for it. Don't ask me the particulars, I don't know. So are they going with the council with the idea that they want to go all the way back and then trace all of the Indians and heritage and pay the nieces and nephews of someone back?
Wampa Pogs
I
and
think-
the
I
Wampa
think-
Pogs, and the Wampa Pogs have been stealing for 20 years now with the casinos.
I know, but I think the conversation is leaning
Talk
into
about compensation.
recognizing that the Native Americans own this land previous before anybody come in, and that's basically the resolution is going to be on. But I think the language on that resolution is a little bit concerning, and that's what I say. We need to make sure that we clarify those lines on the
So, well,
resolution.
people are asking, well, if we don't own this land in all these years, people have been paying taxes, and no one has a right to charge us taxes if they don't own the land.
Okay, so I think if this passes, we can all request a tax rebate.
That's right. There you go, Mike. I like
That's the
that.
thing. I mean,
like the
again,
plan.
if I don't own
A
it,
tax rebate.
I shouldn't be paying taxes on it. I could, so
Yeah.
that's true. Good point.
Yep.
So, there was a bunch of something came out in the newspaper recently. A bunch of rejected ballots that were cited in the last state election, and the people that were bringing it up said, because of that, we should have same-day registration. And I thought that was sort of backwards.
Yeah,
I thought it was just the opposite. You know, that shows to me that you can't have same-day.
Right, I agree with you. I agree with you. You can shorten the period, but you can't have same day.
Right, and then the other thing that comes into play in the same vein is, I guess there's going to be a referendum on next year's state ballot that will be for voter ID in Massachusetts. That's
I think that's racist.
I'm sorry?
I think that's racist. I think that's racist. If poll workers cannot recognize the people that are coming in, they shouldn't be there.
Right.
That's one of the reasons why we employ hundreds of people every election, and they're supposed to know the people that are coming in.
Yeah, but I've seen poll workers I don't recognize, so therefore they don't recognize me.
Well, you know, they used to be up at the Bates, and I knew people that were up there that aren't up there anymore. The old regime, so to
No,
speak.
but there's a new regime up there now.
I
brought in
completely
by
agree
the-
with Jim. I think that's gonna make it some intimidation with so many, especially minorities who might not be
that's
able
my
to
point. That's my point. It's
to
racist.
provide an ID, and
It's racist.
they're gonna back up, and they're gonna go home and
But,
not
but they have
voting.
it, I mean, who doesn't have an ID of some sort?
I know,
mean,
but-
I mean, they get a license, I mean, you know, and you can get a free
ID card.
license from the RMV.
Still not.
Yeah, I just don't, I know, I just...
Much of the population still doesn't know that, Mike.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
they
okay,
just don't know
if
that.
we educate them about recycling their bottles, and they have to put their trash out on a certain day. The day of the election is such and such a day. You know, I mean,
to your point, the only
yeah.
thing is that the education is not being very well organized to provide some second language education, the same level that we provide in English. So that's going to create some issue there for the minorities. The newcomers who happen to be from the Hispanic countries going to be basically targeted, and they're going to feel left out, and that's going to be an issue.
I mean,
there.
obviously, I'm not of that community, so I
Yeah,
can't.
so
I don't
I-
have that insight.
It's a
you
big
know?
issue in the Latino
Yeah,
community.
okay.
Well, I like
Especially
your
coming
idea, Jim, of weekend voting.
Especially coming from a country where they have a lot of oppression based on the fact that not every time they practice good democracy level in their country, the motherland. So that's going to create an issue, and that's going to feel, okay, we came to the land of opportunities, and here we go again.
Okay.
We need to prove who we are.
Okay.
Well, I think they should have it on July 4th, and I think they should have the great big trucks that go around, everyone out there with their cookouts and this and that, and waving flags, and we get these trucks to go to all of the wards, right? And people line up to vote. We all have a good time. We have a great
Okay.
turnout. Captive audience.
The state of Massachusetts just received $130 million in fuel assistance from the federal government because the price of energy is too high in this area.
Yes, it is.
And my first thought was this. Maybe instead of spending $130 million, and that's just in Massachusetts, so how much is it nationwide? I don't know. Maybe we should let the XL pipeline be built. You know, things
Over
like
Indian
that.
land?
Yeah.
Over Indian land, huh? Oh, I see.
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, we're sitting on a lot of oil. Now, at the same time that we canceled, and I mean we meaning the government of the United States canceled the XL pipeline, it approved the Nord Stream 2 pipeline from Russia into Western Europe, which has since been blown up. No one's come forth and claimed who did it yet, fully. But it just seems like if we're importing oil or
I'm on
developing
TV.
our own oil,
on
it still
TV.
pollutes the same amount. So it just seems like if we can not pollute anymore and save money, that seems like that must be the way to go. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
I gotta take this.
makes sense, and I think
Yes, it does make sense. But the other thing is, you know, they're talking about oil as a fossil fuel.
Yeah.
We're not ready yet to change everyone to natural gas or to electric.
Well, natural gas is a fossil fuel. They don't want you changing to natural gas.
Well, you know, right now, I look and say, I know what I'm paying per gallon. You know, it's practically $4 for a gallon of oil that you use in your boiler
Heating oil?
at home.
Okay, yeah.
Do you have oil heat?
No, I have gas.
You have gas. And they're not delivering gas. They're not taking new accounts. They're not. This is no longer available to people like it was before. They have shut that door because they said it's not clean enough. You have to go to electric.
And how does electricity get produced? It gets produced in gas-powered plants, oil plants, and we actually in this country have a ton of coal plants still. So I just don't see how that is cleaner, but to not do that. But
I mean, you take a look at what our cars go through for inspection. But I used to sometimes be behind school buses, right?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, the ones, we're trying to make everything clean for the children. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in late 90s, President Clinton proposed belonging to what they called the Kyoto, I think it was Kyoto, environmental treaty, and climate change, global warming, whatever treaty. And United States, and then when George W. Bush got elected, he refused to sign on to it. Well, fast forward 20 years, or actually less than that, because the numbers I have are from like 5 years ago. The only country that met the conditions of that treaty is the United States, and they didn't sign it. All these countries that signed on to it didn't meet it. And the United States, who did not sign on to it, reduced our pollution. And why we did it? Because we have converted so many things to natural gas. It just seems that we're being unrealistic if we think we're going to power the world with windmills and solar panels.
Right. And the other thing is, Mike, before we run out of time, November 11th, Veterans Day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, it is. 11.
It's this coming Saturday, and Friday is the day that it's being celebrated,
Yes.
at least for the days off from work.
But the official celebration for City of Salem will be on Saturday in the 11th hour of the 11th month,
Oh,
Salem High School?
and the high school.
Salem High
Yeah.
School. Correct.
Okay.
Yes, and afterwards, hopefully, all the people who knew Roger Legier, the Friends of the Council on Aging,
Yeah.
have purchased, and they're going to dedicate a bench that the veterans help us find and purchase. We put up the money, and they put up the time and everything with a plaque, and it's going to go down to the VFW down there on Derby Street.
Okay.
And I think
That's
Roger would be very happy.
Oh, wow.
We would be too.
That's a great
Yeah.
We
honor.
would be too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad that Salem, although we universally the celebration, the day off is on Friday.
Yeah.
The celebration should be on
The day
Saturday.
of. And actually, that's one of the few holidays that does not transfer.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, like Christmas doesn't transfer,